All right, I'd like to do a how to play for Mountain Blade Bannerlord in the beginning, because a lot of people have questions how to start. What I do setting it up at the beginning part actually has no bearing on your very first step. The basic strategy is the same. I'm going to pick Asarai because I will not be on the desert at the beginning for what this video is supposed to show. And I'm not going to be using caravans at the beginning. I may get to workshops in this, but I'll most likely be going through forest more. And it actually increases the wages on the troops. Now, usually I'll just use dice here until I get something close to what I want.
Victory!
And then I will change the eye color to my preferred color. Change the hair to a darker color and a more modest style. On the face here, I will have no scarring. And I prefer to put a regular beard on this person. So that looks pretty close to regular anyway. I'll leave the other stuff as just random features. Okay, so I prefer to focus on cunning and social because I am going to be using some trade at the beginning and show you how to do that. I'm going to focus a bit on trade. Since I'm not going to focus on fighting and show you how to do this without much fighting at the beginning, I'm mostly just going to take polearm and horseback riding, which mostly lets me avoid damage. So I can get horse with this. Warrior slaves lets me get a horse and a polearm, which I want to use. I'm not going to take anything in the water. So actually, being a warrior slave is the only thing that works for me to match what I told you I wanted. Not interested in water. I already have one on horse. I'm not interested in engineering for me. Leadership will give me, now cunning, I do want scouting, and I'll be focusing on cunning and social, so this is acceptable, as leadership is primary and tactics I will want later. So fighting, like we said, is not going to be emphasized with me. Working in the markets gives me social. Trading I said I'm going to focus on, and charm. Focusing on social and cunning means I'm going to focus on the whole row for social and cunning, because you can only max so many ability scores. So I'm choosing social and cunning. So joining a commander's staff is steward. It would take me too long to gain that when I'm going to be working on other stuff. So I'm not even going to bother. I'll use somebody else for the steward. I don't want archery, and I don't want infantry or skirmishers. But an envoy gives me scouting and charm. which I told you, scouting and charm, cunning and social are things that I'm going to focus on. So you can simply go through these. The caravan would give me both trade and leadership, which I want. Remember I said trade's going to be a focus early on. Arrows, sword I don't need. Fast horse and scouting are definite possibilities. As remember I said I'll be on a horse and using a polearm. Tricking the raiders is under cunning, so that's a possibility. Organizing the travelers to break out is charm and leadership. So that's a definite possibility too. Scouting is important, and certainly endurance is going to be important. I really don't want 3 on vigor, but I'll take it. It's kind of a waste to raise attributes where you're only using one particular like mastery in the area. Whereas for cunning and social, I can use scouting, tactics, and roguery all at once. And charm, leadership, and trade all at once. So those are more valuable. Mitunis. All right, we'll take Mitunis for, well, let me get something maybe shorter. Let's say Fatigued. And we'll put it on Bannerlord level, so full realistic level in start game. We're not going to do the Warsails
Brother,
quest.
it's been 3 days now we've been
If you want
tracking
to
those
do
bastards.
those
I
and
think
then
we're getting
do
close.
this method,
We
you
need to.
can.
This looks like an old training field for the legions.
I'm not
Are you
going to
sure
do
about
the
that?
tutorial. You can do the tutorial
All right,
if
then.
you want.
Let us. One other thing, brother.
So I'm going to leave the training. We're not really fighting anymore. And I'm just gonna call my name Ganner. I almost always use that for the last name. For the shield, I'm just going to use a black background with a cross that's a reddish color, and that should make, well, actually, yeah, we'll use reddish. That should make it easy enough for to tell the difference between me and other people on the map. I'm going to go there myself because I'm not doing the Warsails quest. Now here you are alone. Notice at the lower right you have a 5.1 party speed, base 3.99, cavalry 1.2, and you have 1,000 gold, what is it, denarii gold to start with. You have 1,000 in money to start with. I noticed that everything tends to be inflated near you. So we're going to head right out to Anika, for example. We could go, actually, hold on. There's several possibilities here. Yeah, we'll go to Anika. Where you go first is not important. What's important, you keep your speed up and you watch around you. Because if you run into looters, you're going to have to pay them, which means a loss of money. Or they're going to capture you, which is a loss of time, and it's just going to drop you some random place on the map. Now notice I've got 7 points to start with. Remember, well, first of all, we definitely know we're going to use a polearm and riding. I would want a bit in polearm and riding extra. The rest is going for scouting and trade at the beginning, because those are the 2 most important things. So, because scouting increases your speed. So I'm going to max scouting. As time is literally money in this game, because you pay every day and you lose food every day. Notice 1 grain for 1 person alone is 39 days. Okay, and just to be safe, I'm going to, let's see, what was my name? Fathed? So I'm going to call this Fathed Travel 1, just in case I make a mistake. Okay, so let's stop off for tonight. When you buy food, that adds to your food down here. Now watch, I didn't look for a second, and here's a 3.9 speed. And the game has me heading this way. I have to go the opposite way of these people. Because if you run into them, you may be able to defeat them if you're good. But with most people playing this game, the chances that you lose are fairly high, especially to a beginner. And you definitely want to watch as you go down these valleys, because it can easily be blocked by a looter, and then you'll just have to go another way. But you've got, right now, 39 days worth of food. Now, let's stop at Neochorus on the way. I would argue that if they have a Sumpter for fairly cheap, the extra carry space is worthwhile. And usually you'll find those at towns and villages with horses. Now, 88 is actually a lot for a Sumpter. I really don't want to pay that, but I am. Look, I can only carry 30. For example, grain is 10 each. That means I can only carry 2 grains. If I get one Sumpter horse, I can carry 130. So for trading, the Sumpter horse at the beginning is kind of essential, or a mule, or a workhorse. If you look, the mule gives 130. Or if you get a workhorse, it puts you up at 130. So the Sumpter is cheapest. We'll just start with that. All right, now let's go check out the grapes here and see what kind of cost there is. So you see Zionica has grapes in 2 villages. So in fact, chances are the cost in the town is going to be cheaper than the cost in the village, because it has 2 villages feeding for the same thing into the town. If you look on the town, it says the trade-bound settlement is Zionica on both of these. So Zionica is grapes. So if you go to Anika, for example, and you go to buy products, the grapes here are 32 each, okay? So you saw that. The grapes are 32 each. Now we're going to go to Zionica and see if the grapes are 32 each. And I'm sorry for running this slow, but I need to watch for looters while we're going. Okay, now trade. And we go down to the grapes. See, The reason it's cheaper than the village is because the villages feed into this. So I'm going to conjecture the price is fairly low, that 26 and 2 villages are feeding into it, that we're going to be able to profit off of the grapes. So I'm literally going to take as many of these as I can. Notice my cost a day is 0. Even 27. Once you get up, if I put one more, it's going to blink red, and my speed is going to be 4.11. But if I put one back, my speed is 4.12. You know, it may be worth taking. All right, let's take 2 of them. I think 4.08 is acceptable, so let's do that. So let's remember 27 for grapes. And now let's just head to, now this feeds into Ortesia for grapes. So Jalmyrus does not seem to have any village feeding into it for grapes. By the way, if I wouldn't waste too much time chasing people to talk to them, but if you run into them, it's worth it because then you can see the people in the Wikipedia. So for this first episode, I think I'm just gonna show you making money just with those grapes. I may be able to show you a little bit more depending on what's nearby here. So what did I pay? 26 or 27 for the grapes? Okay, if you click on the grapes, they're paying literally less in spite of the fact that they have no grapes. But grain is 8, so we're gonna take a grain to eat. So we're literally at 317 days now for food. 8 is really cheap. You know, I'm gonna take another grain. All right, let's try rote. Because it's close. Now, we just bought 1 grain for 8 from Jalmyrus. Hold on. You can also stop in villages, by the way. Watch. They'll give 10 for grapes and 3 for grain, so that's nothing. But you can sell stuff in villages as well, and you can actually gain trade credit from the villages like you do from towns in order to gain your trade level. Most people want to get up to a trade level of 300 because then you can buy and sell fiefs. Here we go. Trade. Now watch. We bought grapes for what, about 32? And here they're offering 39. And we bought grain for 8. So we can offer a couple of these grapes and make some profit. And I'll offer one of the grains and make a little bit. So we made a little bit and we still have enough food. Let's head to Carfinian and see if there's anything of interest for us there on our way to the next town. Here they're dealing cows. almost always Carthenian and Potamus over here deal in cows. Usually Potamus is cheaper than Carthenian. Here you have cow for $169. So a cow gives something like 6 meat. I'm going to take 2 of them. I'm going to head back to Rote. I didn't see any looters, but these guys may be able to catch me. If they do, I'm going to have to reload. Watch me speed up. So, 2 cows are off. And now they can't catch me. Because I had a herding minus because of the extra mounts from the cows. Making them into meat here, we get 616 from that. Now we're up to 953, but we have 10 grapes and a sumpter horse. So you see at this point, we have already made progress. Looking for a town that's close by. So let's head this way. And look, we still got 256 days of food for the extra grain that we kept and all the grapes. And our cargo is pretty close to within capacity. You should really keep it mostly focused on the map, and actually we should be saving. So Fatigued Progress 1. You see iron ore here. Let's have a look while we're here. Beware the looters. Notice their speed's 3.9 and yours is 5.1. At this point, products are going to speed you up more. I don't think 133 is good for... I don't think the prices here are good at all. I'm going to leave perpendicular to them. I'm going to go opposite his direction. Now I'm going to change my direction and skirt around him. You need to keep an eye on the looters and stay away from them. I'm literally getting out of that area because the prices are inflated where you start the game, typically. So, mountain bandits are heading up, so I will head down. And then I'll cut across. They cut across, so I will cut up. And literally right in the middle of these two. Silver ore's 238. In my opinion, all these prices again are high. 16 for grain, 55 for butter. I don't expect to get any good deals. Let's go to Sionin. Oh no, Sionin has grapes. Let's try to get to Epicrodia by going, let's go up to get away from these people. See, we want to go to somewhere without grapes. Otherwise, how can you expect to make... Can I not cross here? Geta has grapes. All right, we have no choice here. All right, all right, we're gonna have to cut through where those people were at. The problem is the hideout down here. Notice he's heading right where I'm heading. You're gonna have to change your directions manually to get around these people. And yeah. That was close. The only reason you can do that is their speed is 4.1 and yours is 5.1. We already stopped at Bethea and saw the prices. Now look, you see looters are heading for me, so I'm gonna have to change my direction and move around those people. This is the reason I can't just do this quickly. And I have to run it at game speed. All right, and now we can go up to Epicrodia. I would like to at least unload the grapes before I go to the next video showing you trading. I've already shown you that we can get up to almost our starting amount with one guy, with now a sumpter horse, the ability to carry roughly 100 more because of the sumpter horse. And we have some inventory of grapes. All right, let's stop by Marathea and check out the iron ore there. We are not buying anything that seems high to us. Early on, we can only really afford good prices. The food lasts long enough for one person that it's not an issue. Now notice iron ore's 28, and the canned cells are all much higher. 49, 99, and 156. So, and you notice the speed for those guys was 4.1. So we estimate that we're one faster than looters. So I will take iron ore for 28 each, allowing my speed to drop. All right, I'll accept 4.6, the iron ore. Now look, we paid $364 for the iron ore. We are close to Epicrodia, and we are watching our speed to keep it above what we saw the looters could do. When we had a comparable speed. So one thing to do is to watch the speed of the enemy. All right. Now the grapes sell here for 56. So for us, that's a major profit on the grapes. So we're going to sell them. We are now 1,070. But we have an inventory of iron ore. We'll sell 2 of them. No, actually, let's not sell any. We'll just leave it like that. Our speed is 5.0, which is fast enough. At this point, I've showed you I can profit off the grapes. But let's go to Omor and see if we could profit off the iron. Notice, here, let me pause it. There is no iron near Omor. while this should feed into Epicrodia, which would explain why the iron prices are not so good. So, in fact, I'm going to take a risk and I'm going to speed this up because I want to end the video. So let me save the traveling. And let's speed to Omor. I considered doing this live, but I've done this several times with one person, and I think I can explain how this works. So, look, iron is 158. If I sell 13 of these, I get 1,175. I have 2 grains and a sumpter horse, and I am now twice and 5 skill points of trade and a promotion in trade. Now I'm going to take price while selling equipment because later in the game I will sell equipment. But I could speed this up early on by giving the wholesaler, which gives minus 15% price penalty while selling trade goods. Instead, I'm taking appraiser, minus 15% price penalty while selling equipment because that will benefit me later in the game. All right, Lord willing, we'll pick up here. Thank you for listening.